We're going to just run through a variety of different opportunities today to give you guys some idea of sort of what your options are relative to postgraduate study here in the department. Each speaker is going to speak for 5 minutes, and then at the end, most of them will be around for questions and things at the end that you can kind of ask individual questions that you might have. So to start off, we actually have our department head, our head of department, MacPhail, who is going to discuss some of the options available to you. Thanks.
Hi folks, you're very welcome. My name is MacPhail and I'm head of the department, Physical Education and Sports Sciences. Undergraduate programme. You can talk with us afterwards in relation to how we got to where we are in relation to our own interests in working within an academic environment. I actually did an undergraduate for 4 years in physical education, and nobody talked to me about anything outside of teaching. So I actually went in to teach for a couple of months in a school before somebody spoke to me about would I be interested in doing teaching and research. So I think that, along with some of our other experiences, have brought us here today, because it's not always that you get an opportunity to think earlier rather than later in relation to what are the options that are available to you. Okay, so that's really why we're here today. We all have an interest in relation to educating you on what options you can actually, there are choices that you can make, and we want to share those with you. So, Jamie said the best department within UL. Jamie will get around for that after, because we're probably one of the best departments internationally in the areas that you've chosen to study, both in sports science and physical education.
I wanted to let you say that.
Okay. So the complement of faculty that you have within and across both programmes or across both disciplines is relatively impressive. If you go and you look at their website and look at the individuals and what they're actually doing and the contribution that they make, not only to the research area here in Ireland, but internationally, you have a very, very impressive group of people to work with. That in turn works with, we have a very impressive group of undergraduates at UL, we know that, and that's why we're keen that we maintain some level of involvement with you in research. Okay, so as head, I would talk to you just to give you a background in relation to the context of our department. On the left hand side are the 4 research areas that everybody within PESS is aligned with. You might be aligned to 1, to 2, to 3, or all 4. So we have a research area of food and health, we have a research area of physical activity and health, we have 1 in sport and human performance, and we have 1 in sport pedagogy. Sport pedagogy much more focused on physical education and teaching of physical education and teaching of sport. So those are the 4 areas in which all faculty within this department reside. Okay, perhaps in 1 or 2 of them. And within those 4 areas, faculty contribute predominantly to 3 research centres or units that also reside within PESS. So we have the Physical Education, Physical Activity and Youth Sport Research Centre, we have the Centre for Physical Activity and Health Research, and we have a Biomechanics Research Unit. Okay, so you can see already what the areas of expertise are and how they actually map over into research centres or units. Now, research centres are actually quite difficult to get status for within UL. So within this department we actually have 2 that have been designated as research centres. So what the university are saying is that they recognise these 2 research centres within this department as being national and potentially international forums in which researchers operate. So a lot of departments might have a collective of faculty under the left-hand side. Not all departments actually have research centres or units. So again, you're coming to an infrastructure that is relatively well grounded in relation to having an expertise within specific areas. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Anything on that before I go on? Okay, so the message to you would be that you have quite well established academics as well as research areas of expertise within PESS, and some of you have already identified the areas that you would like to align with. Okay, the main 2 then research opportunities that would operate from a department head level would be a PESS internship and PESS scholarship. So PESS internship is where you would look to apply to work in one of the 4 research areas that was on the left hand side of the previous slide. Okay, so you would identify an area you were interested in, and you would look to find somebody within PESS that works within that area. Okay, if you're not sure who's aligned with a particular area you've got an interest in, you all know faculty across the programmes, and you can approach anyone and say, I'm interested in this area, who would be the best person to actually approach? You work with the PESS faculty member or their team, you perhaps collect process data, And it gives you an idea of what sort of disposition do you have to research, and do you actually want to work in a university environment as a researcher or as an academic. You can complete the internship any time throughout a year, and you get paid €200 a week over 8 weeks. Okay? So the idea is it's an initiative for you to become involved in the culture of working within PESS and within a specific research area that might then set you up if you wanted then to go on and look to apply for a PESS scholarship or for further funding or opportunities within postgraduate work. Okay? So Jennifer here actually, Jennifer was a recipient of the PESS internship in your fourth year? Third and fourth year, and was one then of a successful applicant for the PESS scholarship just in August, September of this year. So the internship worked definitely in Jennifer's favour, and as she came in to the department, she spent a couple of summers, and she then had a strong position in which to apply for the PESS scholarship. So it's definitely something that I think you should consider if you are seriously looking at what would research in an academic environment be like. And Jennifer's here, and you can talk to Jennifer at the end if you're interested in that. The other option then that we have that's funded by PESS is a PESS scholarship. So again, this is a 4-year PhD scholarship. We pay your fees and your stipend over the 4 years. So there's no cost to you in relation to actually living costs or fees. You undertake a structured PhD, and as part of that structured PhD, you go to classes in other departments run by the faculty where you work with other students, postgraduate students, in upskilling. And you also contribute a specific amount of hours to actually teaching or to demonstrating or to anything linked to the work of the department. You would need to, if you're interested in the scholarship, you want to do a PhD over the 4 years, again you would need to identify one of the 4 research areas that you would like to work in and try and look for the member of faculty that would be related to that in your area of expertise. Okay? So the same idea as the internship gives you 8 weeks of an idea of being a researcher, whereas the scholarship gives you the 4-year funded PhD position. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Okay, so those are the 2 main options. I have one more slide before I pass over, and it's really just to allude to this, and we'll have somebody talk to this later on today. In the most pressing funding opportunity that I'm aware of at this very moment in time is the IRC, the Irish Research Council funding. They have 2 calls that are due out any time now, and they have a closing date at the end of January, sometime in February, probably more towards the end of February. So these IRC Research Council grants, particularly the first one, would not be dissimilar from the scholarship that I shared with you previously. It would give you 4 years as a funded PhD student. The attraction of the IRC is because it's external funding, you get more money than PESS can pay for a scholarship. So there's a number of options in the system for you. This is the most pressing one at this point in time. So if you're proactive and you are thinking about doing a PhD or starting postgraduate work as of August or September of next year, you have 2 options. You can sit and wait for the call for the PESS scholarship, which will be sometime in March or April, or you can be more proactive and actually start to think about, I've got a project I would like to do, I know what area I would like to work in, I know who I would like to work with, and you should go and seek out that faculty member now, so that when the call comes out in December, you're able to apply. Now that's obviously for those who are currently in 4th year. Okay? So those in 4th year, you have an option of waiting for the scholarship call in April or May for PESS, or you have the option of now thinking about the IRC option, and we'll revisit that towards the end of the presentation. Okay? So that's a sort of department perspective in relation to where we are. I'm absolutely delighted you're here. First time we've done this, and we really do want to look at enhancing and maintaining some of the talented students that we actually have within PESS. So I'll pass over to Ian now.
Okay, morning folks. So I've taught most of you at undergraduate level, but I'm also course director for the Masters Sports Performance. It's a relatively new programme. It's a top Masters programme, so that means you have classes similar to what you have at undergraduate level, but a large component of it towards the end is for research dissertations similar to FIP. It started in 2012, So we've had 3 cohorts through. It's a very successful program in terms of the application numbers and successful in terms of the employment opportunities and the positions people have gone into. There's a large amount of time was spent talking with national governing bodies, sports institutes internationally about what they wanted their employees to have in terms of their skills. So it's a practically oriented program to develop the skills that you'll need to deliver to high performance athletes when you graduate from the program. So what the governing bodies and the institutes wanted generally internationally was not specifically strength conditioning coaches or specifically nutritionists, but somebody who can look after the conditioning and the feedback of athletes. So there's 3 main strands in the program. There are a strand in strength conditioning, a strand in nutrition, and a strand in feedback systems, which is video analysis. But running through the whole program are elements of biomechanics, physiology at a high level, master's level. It's 1 year full-time, and it's a calendar year, so it starts next January. It's full for next January, so it'll be January 16. We'll be inviting applications for next year. So 1 year calendar full-time, 2 years starting again calendar year for part-time, for those who may be in employment and want to work a few days a week and study a few days a week. The fees are there, as you can see. There's also an international acceptance of the fees as well, which you can discuss with anybody in that bracket. It's internationally accredited. It's a major plus for the program. So by accredited, it means these are bodies that have looked at the syllabus and believe this is a program that they want to put their name to. So you're coming away with a master's degree, but you're also coming away accredited as a National Strength Conditioning Association of America certified strength and conditioning specialist. So you sit their exam as part of the course. You do have to pass the exam at the rate that they state, but you'll be accredited as CSCS professional as well as a master's program graduate. PESS is the International Society of Performance Analysis in Sport. It's based in UWIC, or the old University of Wales Institute, Cardiff, now Metropolitan Cardiff, for video performance analysis. So you can come out as a level 1, 2 or 3 video analysis specialist as well. They're integrated into the course. And lastly, optionally, you can sit the ISIC, which is kind of anthropometry, body fat, body composition measurements. That's run throughout the summer on the course as well. So these are additional components to the Masters which sit very well on CV for people who graduate. This is the general structure full-time, so you can see. Starts in spring semester, so spring in column 1, summer in column 2, and dissertation in 3. So as you would have sat undergrad, you would do 13 weeks of modules. Quality of research methods in another department, which prepares you for dissertation. In PESS department, then you study speed, endurance, strength, and team sports. These are multidisciplinary modules, so it helps to develop the understanding, practical skills to develop speed for athletes, or endurance for athletes, or team sports performance for athletes. Okay. So the faculty and department here and some professional external lecturers deliver a few weeks of expertise in each of these modules. The summer semester is just 6 weeks long, and we develop skills and problem-based learning where external bodies again come in and present you with an athlete with a particular real-world problem, which you then have to present back to them and answer some questions. You'd sit the CSCS professional exam in the summer, and you have the opportunity to sit placement as well. That's towards the end of the summer, and I'll show some of those opportunities in a minute. Finally, there's a large body of work, dissertation towards the end, which we set up in the spring, but you have a full-time opportunity to do that at the end of the program. Part-time for people who can come in 2 days a week, we do half the modules every year. So in year 1, we do Mondays and Tuesdays in the spring. Summer, 2 to 3 weeks in the summer. You have the autumn off because you're not doing a dissertation. You come back the next year and you do Thursday and Friday, spring and summer, and then start the dissertation. So it allows block release for people already in work. And finally, where are people going to? Okay, so you have a higher level master's degree, so that's a plus on the CV. But the practical skills means people have been able to go out to these places. So in terms of placement, some of these opportunities, employers have come to us asking can you send your graduates to us? It's a major plus to the degree. But in terms of full-time employment, on the right-hand side, you can see where some people have been placed now and are working since 2012 or 13. For placement, these are mainly on the left-hand side. You can see internationally and nationally where people have gone for placement. We invite applications June and September every year online, and then we would inform people October well in advance of the January they have to place in the course. Now we do generally get between 120 to 150 applicants for 24 places every year full-time, and around about 20 applications for 3 part-time places. There's only 27 places a year on the course. We keep the course small and dedicated, so there's only one lab group ever going in classes. That was a whistle-stop tour of the programme. Again, at the end, maybe I'll answer questions after everybody's finished speaking. Okay, thanks folks.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Tadhg MacIntyre. I'm the course director of the Masters in Sport, Exercise and Performance Psychology. So I know some of you, I've taught many of you. Just to give you an idea, what sport, exercise and performance psychology is. Well, it's an applied science. So in the course, you learn about theory and application, how to be a scientist and how to be a practitioner. That's kind of integral within our course team, which both work as practitioners and as scientists in area of sport, human performance and exercise. So the course is quite similar in structure to the one Ian has just outlined, essentially January start. 1 year full-time. It's a fast track to enhance your skills in collaboration and creativity. And some of these graduate qualities, what do we mean by collaboration? It means that we know that in the real world, in high performance and in physical activity settings, as a practitioner, you're often required to work with others. So what we call interdisciplinary work. And that's pretty interesting and challenging, but we think the best way to prepare you for that is to get you to work in groups. So much of your, many of your assignments and much of your work is collaborative, and that's a really important skill, and it's actually really great fun. So it creates a slightly different environment than the one you've come through the undergraduate programs here, where you've had some collaborative work but not such an emphasis on it. This helps you gain an understanding of players and key stakeholders in high performance systems. So increasing with the professionalisation of sport, and obviously we have triathlon and Munster rugby and other high performance activities here like swimming, there's a system of support around players and athletes in those various sports, and try to understand, to optimise those, to help coaches, to help performance managers. That's part of the role of psychology. It also helps you develop a foundation for a PhD in this area, or an MRes, Master's by Research. Just, we had the mention of by MacPhail earlier, our head of department, the idea that you can do internships and get scholarships. So within psychology, we've had interns, and Elizabeth works on one of the projects with one of our summer interns, which is actually resilience training in rugby, so it's quite rugby orientated. And one of our PESS scholarship students who has conducted research in psychology is actually interested in practicing what they preach. Do psychologists look after themselves in terms of mental health, well-being, and work engagement and lifestyle? And that's quite interesting, because there's a tendency and acceptance in sport that we all push to the limit. We all work 24/7, and that's something that as practitioners we have to be very, very aware of in terms of self-care. You can also acquire an understanding of some very recent, what we call hot topics or current topics, like issues like concussion, mental health in sport, and physical activity. And the depression is a big challenge within elite sport, but we call it the D word. It's only one of a whole array of potential challenges for elite performers. So that's one of the things that we have you'll gain an understanding of. One of the modules you do combines both physical activity understanding, which is exercise, and mental health in elite sport. So it combines both those areas. There are actually 5 tracks in terms of career possibilities. So they're probably not as broad as what Ian has outlined, but these career tracks are both within psychology and high performance sport, and within physical activity domain. For example, it could be teaching and research combined across the disciplines you see there. It could be teaching, research and consulting, which is a typical profile for people teaching and working in this area. It could be full-time consulting, and there's more than half a dozen of those very active in Ireland, and they work in rugby, Gaelic and other sports. It could be in health promotion and personal training. That's it's actually quite a good career track if you're more interested in exercise and physical activity. And then again, this is a really interesting one. So our program starts in January 2016, but we know there's a lot of interest from people in high performance coaching, in sports management, and in lifestyle. For example, both in Ireland and UK, many of the recent performance directors in sports like athletics have been psychologists. Many people working in lifestyle and performance consulting are trained psychologists, people working for Arupa and the GPA, for example. Why is that important? It just tells you that there's an increased emphasis on this, so the job possibilities are actually going to grow and expand in the future. So the course, it's a January start. You do performance psychology, work design and well-being. So there's some things from other programs like organizational psychology. You do applied positive psychology. That's an interesting module. It's actually online. So you get to do an online module. So there's quite a bit of variety of learning styles that we try to cater for. And obviously we finish off with a dissertation in the autumn semester. Essentially the modules are a little bit driven by outside regulators. You have to cover a broad spectrum of areas. But they do help prepare you to work in high performance, whether as a coach, a manager, or a psychologist. So essentially we have assessment, which is mainly group work. There's essays, group presentations, case studies, culminating with a dissertation at the end. Learning includes online learning that I mentioned, and it's a lot of collaborative learning. That's really important, and it's going to be a very good graduate quality you have at the end of the program. Our team comprises both myself, Dr. Mark Campbell and Dr. Matt Herring. So Matt is an expert in exercise and physical activity. Mark is a former professional golfer and an expert within sport and cognitive psychology, and my profile would be similar in terms of sport and cognitive. So we offer a broad range of expertise, and that's important not just for this program, but in case you're interested in internship as a starter, or if you're interested in a PESS scholarship or applying for an IRC. Just finally, to tell you where it kind of kicks in, so the program will be accredited when it runs. Essentially, there's a couple of ways to get accredited. So the two on the right are the most interesting ones for you. So the Irish Institute of Sport will accredit you at postmasters. So it's about 200 days postmasters that you can be accredited as a practitioner in sport and exercise psychology. So that's having done either a PE or an SES degree here. So that's one pathway that's going to be open. There are other pathways which are possible for accreditation across the 32 counties or across within the UK context. But that's the one that's important for you. So just if you have an interest in it, my office is just down the corridor, so feel free to catch up with me anytime. Thank you.
Thanks, Tadhg. Missy?
I'm Missy Parker, and I'm a course director for the Professional Masters in Education Physical Education course here. And some of you who have not been physical education majors at the undergraduate level might be interested in it. It is a two-year course. It's a two-year program. It results in both a master's degree and your teaching qualification. So two deals at one time. And it is a 4-semester course full-time during the academic year. Because of the teaching requirements and school placement issues, we can't do it part-time and you are in school. So with it, there are 5 aspects that I think are really critical to the program. You take 2 sets of modules, one in education, pedagogy and theory, which will largely happen in EPS. It talks about theoretical aspects of teaching and learning, psychology, sociology, all of those aspects of teaching and learning. And then you will take physical education course or content-specific modules that deal with both pedagogy and other skills and knowledges that you need to teach. So 2 sets of modules, and then the unique pieces of it. There is an 18-week school placement aspect to it. So you're actually on school placement for 8 weeks during your 2nd semester and for 10 weeks during your 3rd semester. So you're out in schools for 18 weeks in the same school the entire time. So you get to really spend time in a school to develop relationships and continuity and understand the culture of that school. So that's pretty unique with this program, which many other professional masters and teaching programs only offer. You go to different schools and it's a shorter placement period than it is here. With that, you have two culminating projects. Because it is a teaching degree and you end up with your teaching qualification, you will do a professional portfolio. And the portfolio, I liken it often to a scrapbook, but it's a collection of your work that demonstrates your ability, your skills, your knowledges, your dispositions to teach, and it meets teaching council requirements in terms of they have outlined learning outcomes and you actually document your ability to meet those learning outcomes. So one is a professional portfolio that then you could take and use as you apply for positions and work in schools. The other is a thesis or a dissertation as a culminating project to represent the learning that is required with the master's degree. The thesis dissertation has been designed so that it is a teaching-oriented, or that you might do it while on school placement, or it involves teaching and learning in schools. Could be action research projects that engage you with research in a school setting so that you can document your continued involvement as a learning teacher throughout your lifetime. So 5 pieces to the program. It looks somewhat like this, and you can see that the first semester is very heavily laden in terms of modules and in terms of coursework, that you take some in education and some in physical education. The second semester of the first year is largely a school placement. You're on campus for 4 weeks and then are out on school placement for the rest of that time. The second year, the first semester is heavily school placement. The last semester then more heavily modules and coursework on campus to try to tie together everything that you have learned through your school placement in the last year out in schools. I will say the application is always in January 19th this year, the application deadline. It is online. Many of you are perfectly situated to, if you thought about teaching, to engage with the course, as it does require a level 3 degree in a physical education related area, which all of you have. So if you have friends who might have been geography majors, unfortunately they're not qualified by virtue of the teaching council for the degree, but you are. We accept 12 students a year, so it's a fairly limited program. We would welcome any of you and any questions you may have. The right one.
Hi, I'm Brigitte Moody. One of the courses I direct is the Graduate Diploma and Masters in Dance. It's entirely a part-time course, so it's different to the other courses, that it is only done through a part-time basis. It's actually the oldest postgraduate course, I think, in PESS. It's been going for, looking at my head of department there, getting that right. It's been going for 17 years. So almost continuously as well. I think they've had 1 or 2 years when they haven't been doing it. And it was created specifically, and still does, address the shortfall, the shortfall needs in dance education. So a lot of different people come on the course. It doesn't attract a huge number of students from within PESS, but we do have students who come from PESS. And one of our most recent PESS graduates is Julianne Murphy, who was a physical education undergraduate, and she's now teaching. She did her master's in dance, graduated last year, and she now teaches in Ballyshannon. She's also a basketball nut, and she found that coming on the course gave her quite a lot of ammunition for her to convert her employment into permanent full-time. So she is a permanent full-time teacher in Ballyshannon. And in fact, her thesis that she did for her master's was on the Girls Active programme, and the school were very, very impressed with the level at which she got the girls involved in a very kind of advocating way. And she believes she said, don't quote me on this, but she believes that it was quite significant in her being able to secure her post. She was a reasonably good dancer anyway, so she was a hip-hop dancer. But actually the course attracts people who have an interest in dance and know that and are passionate about the fact that it can affect people's lives. So we don't necessarily get a lot of good dancers on the course. We actually get all sorts of people, primary school teachers, people who work in the community, visual artists, musicians, all sorts of people come on the course. So it is only part-time, so it makes it quite flexible. We work on alternate Saturdays during the term time, in semester time, and that's because people are working full-time during the week, predominantly in education. So the first year of the course then is sort of taught part of the course, and we do all our modules in that first year. You develop your knowledge of dance, so there's a lot of practical modules, dance modules, composition, choreography modules. There is a significant element of developing dance pedagogy further, and we do that through looking at formal education, so dance pedagogy practices in primary and post-primary, but also in the community as well. We look at adapted work, dance and disability work as well. And then there are modules that are more theoretically based, so we look at it in a more critical way and informed way at professional dance practices. The second year of the programme is the master's level. So it's a 2-point exit. You can exit after the first year with your graduate diploma, with all the knowledge and skills, or you can then convert that into the second year, which is the master's dissertation, the master's thesis. And that's done entirely just individually between you and your supervisor. So there's not so much contact time in the second year, so it makes it even more flexible. And that's it, really. Just keep it nice and short.
Thanks, Robin.
That's fine. Okay, so I'm Robin Healy. I'm a second year PhD student, so I'm going to talk about applying for Irish Research Council funding. So just to give you a little bit of background to it, the Irish Research Council scholarship scheme supports civilly qualified research masters and PhDs. And I already said this, but the proposed call is sometime this month. It hasn't actually been released yet, and the deadline is sometime in February. So if you just keep an eye out on research.ie, that's the website for Irish Research Council, so that's where you get all the information. So I'm going to talk about the eligibility. So I applied back in 2013, and this information I'm going to talk about now is true as of last year, so 2014. So it may change this year, but so you have to keep up to date with the website. So you can apply twice for an Irish Research Council scholarship. So if you're unsuccessful the first time, you can apply a second time, but you have to justify what differences there are in the project the second time if you're unsuccessful. QCA is definitely important. If you're an undergrad, you need at the very least a 2-1, or you can't apply. If you don't have that, then a research master. If you have a research master, or sorry, a master's in general, you can apply. Where if you have an undergrad, a high-level undergrad and a postgrad, your master's takes precedence. Structured and unstructured, so you can apply to do either a structured master's or a structured PhD or an unstructured, so the traditional route. If you're applying for a structured master's or PhD, you can apply for 2 years of funding for master's and 4 years for PhD. If you go the unstructured route, it's 1 year for master's and 3 years for PhD. If you're already involved in research, so the research project is already commenced, you're a registered student, you can still apply for Irish Research Council funding, but there is some criteria related to that. So if you are funded, you do have to state your funding, and depending on your funding body, you may not be eligible, so you have to check with the website on that. So I'm going to talk about kind of how it's assessed and the kind of tips I would give, kind of judging from my own experience with applying. So it's 4 criteria. So quality of research project, training and career development aspects, capability of the applicant, and suitability of the host organisation. So it's kind of broken down into 3 areas. So the first 2 come under the project itself, the second one is the applicant, third one is the environment. So that's the facilities, the equipment, the university itself. I can't really give you much tips on this bit because it is discipline specific, so I'll just give you what I found helped me anyway. The way the IRC projects are assessed is they go to, they get reviewed for eligibility first, and then they go to international reviewers. So in 2013 and 2014 there was 1,200 applications, and of that roughly about 200 were successful in getting the funding. So the people reviewing your application almost definitely will not be in your field or your area of research. So you have to outline your aims and objective of the project as clearly and as coherently as possible. So you have to explain it really well, because it might be someone who's experienced in your area, they might understand some of the jargon. You have to demonstrate that feasibility and credibility of the project in the proposed time period. If you're applying for a 4-year scholarship, you have to be able to do the project in 4 years. You can't just apply for 4 years of funding with the anticipation that it's going to take longer. Same thing for masters. And then dissemination plans. So with all research, the goal is to actually disseminate your work. So you need to really think about the projects, how you're going to publish them, or how you're going to send them to conferences or peer-reviewed journal papers. So with this, a lot of work actually goes into the research project itself. You need to approach a supervisor with an idea, or maybe approach a supervisor saying that you would like to take this on. They might have a project in mind. You have to have it completely clear in your head. It's the entire 4-year program. So I have a chart that I developed in 2013 of everything I would do for 4 years, my PhD, and it's something I'm still following right now, even though it's 2 years on. So you have to have the entire project clearly laid out and defined, the time periods, when you'll collect data, analyse data, etc. And you also have to allude to how you can disseminate each part of the project. So you really have to have the project really clearly understood, laid out, and well defined. Training and career development aspects. So it's only 10%, but I think it's one that, with a bit of kind of, with the strengths of everything that the speakers have spoken about before me, you really see where you get the benefit from PESS. So what you need to think about is, what are your career aspirations after doing a PhD or a master's, and how will postgrad studies assist you in achieving these goals? So when I thought about this, I said I wanted a career in the research. So when I was applying, I was luckily able to mention the EHS structured PhD, which is, if you're doing a PhD, it would be under the faculty EHS. So with that, I could do modules in research methods, modules in specialist areas as well. So I was able to say that I was building a good foundation of general skills as well as specific skills to the project area. I was able to say so modules in ethics, research methods, statistics, so that's building my overall ability as a researcher, not just getting to the end point, which is your thesis. The MSc in sports performance, as Ian spoke about. If you're doing an EHS structured PhD, you can do modules from any module within the faculty. So I was able to take on 3 modules within the sports performance masters, so that really I got the ones that I felt were the strongest kind of draw for me in a career, so that's either as a researcher or a practitioner. So I was able to do speed sports, strength sports, and one of the PBLs. So it's kind of a pick and choose of whatever skills you think will develop you as a researcher, or if you're going into the practical domain. International links, so I was lucky enough that the PESS has international links all over the world, so I was able to mention Professor Joe Hamill and Professor Jim Richards as potential collaborators or people that I would go over and learn from. So as a researcher, collaboration is massive. So being able to say that you have these links can only just boost your application. Transferable skills, as part of the EHS, you do through workshops, you do 60 hours of workshops that build your overall writing skills, analysis skills. So once again, building the foundation as an overall researcher. As well, you can look at career direction of previous students. So if I was looking at the PhD students of my 2 supervisors, Drew and Ian, I was able to say exactly where they went. So the majority went into academia, so they're currently lecturing, or some of them are working in practice. So that's a good kind of indication of where people have gone before. So if you want to go to that place, it's a good kind of rationale. And the last thing is something I didn't know about when I was applying, but I know about now, and it's something I will let you know about. It's the specialist diploma in teaching, learning, and scholarship. So coming from a sports science background, I didn't have much experience with teaching, but the specialist diploma allows you to actually take on teaching modules. They're only 1 or 2 day modules where you can actually get certified as a teacher in 3rd level. So if you are as I am looking to work in lecturing or academia in general, having this kind of diploma will really help my chances. So I'm not just coming from research background, research and teaching. Capability of the applicant. So this is where you really need to set yourself aside from everybody else that is applying. It's going to be pretty much a given that everyone will have a decent QCA or a pretty high level award of a master's. So when I looked at this, I thought, okay, what was my track record and the research potential? So research grants, I started thinking about this when I was in third year, and I applied for a grant from the International Society of Biomechanics and Sport for funding to do my FYP. So I applied for that and I was successful. Internships, so as Anna's mentioned, doing a research internship is massive because you get the skills in data collection, data analysis and dissemination, something that a lot of people don't do, so that will definitely set you apart. I didn't do a research internship, but I did one with Munster Rugby, so that's once again a practical internship that I was able to use for my application. Conference presentations, you're doing work at the moment, you're doing good quality work, and you should be able to actually present it. So if you're an undergrad, every year there's an All-Ireland undergrad conference, so if you look that up now, its abstracts are due the end of January, it's only a 300-word abstract, you can present that as a poster, and that will be sometime in February, you'll be told. To be able to say that you have a conference paper published and presented is a massive draw, because not a lot of people have that. If you're a postgrad, there's an All-Ireland Postgraduate conference which is actually held in UL for sport and exercise sciences, and abstracts are due for that on the 12th of this month, so anyone that's currently doing a thesis or has done a thesis, this is an excellent opportunity to present that at a national conference. Journal publications, I was very lucky that I had all my data collected, analysed pretty early in my FYP, so I had it submitted to a peer-reviewed journal by the time I was applying for IRC. The final part of that kind of profile will be the match between the applicant profile and research project. So my area is sprint biomechanics. So throughout my 4 years, I've developed a lot of skills, general skills and skills that I would be using anyway throughout my project. I was able to call on them. So I use a lot of kinematics, something that all the SES students will have done. So this is really saying what skills you already have. So you are the best person to do the project you're putting forward. So you already have foundation skills that you will further develop, or you'll already have skills that will let you hit the ground running when you do start. So the next thing is suitability to host organisation. You have to give a pretty good rationale. Why is UL, or your specific department, the best department to do this research? Or why are the supervisors you are choosing the best supervisors for you for the project? So the best way to go about this that I looked at was the track record of my supervisors. So that's Ian Kenny and Drew Harrison. Between them, they've had 6 IRC students. So that was the old Irish Research Council. So they had a good track record of getting IRC students and bringing them to completion in their PhD. As well as that, just their students in general, any masters or PhD students, if they've worked in the area that you will be working in, that's a very, very good indication that your supervisors can competently supervise you in that area. You say they've done it before, it's not really a problem to them. The next step, are the facilities and infrastructure provided by the organisation suitable to match the demands of the project? You have a project, can you actually do it? Does the university have the capabilities to do this research? So back when I was applying, it was kinematics, EMG, surveys, that kind of thing, within the BRU, so in PESS, we can do all that right now. So we've actually upgraded our equipment since, but when I was applying, we were able to do everything that I said we could do. So this is a big thing. If you're saying that you need equipment that the university currently doesn't have, then the IRC mightn't think that, there's no guarantee that you will get the equipment. So you need to say that you can actually do the project that you're applying for. And then the last step is you need to match your own abilities, your supervisor's abilities, and the organisation's abilities. So the research project you're proposing, you're the best person to do it, your supervisors are the best people to supervise you, and UL or PESS in particular is the best place to do it. So you need to match all the skills learned. So I was able to talk about Ian's specialities, Drew's specialities, and what we have in PESS, and then how my skills and everything I've learned can all come together so that I could successfully get this project. So the last bit of advice I will tell you is, even if you have all the extras that students don't have, it's never a guarantee. You always need to look for multiple sources of funding. So when I was applying, I also applied for the PESS scholarship. So you never bank on one source of funding, always apply in several different areas because you never know. You're never guaranteed. All you can do is hope that you have the best possible application. Try to set yourself apart from everyone else. That's it.
Thanks, Robert.
We just thank